And we're going to continue with this, the 14th, I believe, chapter of A Tale of Two Cities in the second book, which is called The Honest Tradesmen. Cruncher, the errand runner for Tellson's Bank, has been caught up in a funeral riot, and it continues to be described. I'll back up to the beginning of the paragraph where I got cut off. The dead man disposed of, and the crowd being under the necessity of providing some other entertainment for itself, another brighter genius, or perhaps the same, conceived the humor of impeaching casual passers-by as Old Bailey spies and wreaking vengeance on them. Chase was given to some scores of inoffensive persons who had never been near the Old Bailey in their lives, in the realization of this fancy, and they were roughly hustled and maltreated. The transition to the sport of window-breaking, and thence the plundering of public houses, was easy and natural. At last, after several hours, when sundry summer homes had been pulled down, and some area railings had been torn up, to arm the more belligerent spirits, a rumor got about that the guards were coming. Before this rumor, the crowd gradually melted away, and perhaps the guards came, and perhaps they never came, and this was the usual progress of a mob. Mr. Cruncher did not assist at the closing sports, but had remained behind in the churchyard to confer and condole with the undertakers. The place had a soothing influence on him. He procured a pipe from a neighboring public house and smoked it, looking at the railings and maturely considering the spot. "Jerry," said Mr. Cruncher, apostrophizing himself in his usual way, "you see that there Cly that day, and you see with your own eyes that he was a young'un and a straight maiden." Having smoked his pipe and ruminated a little longer, he turned himself about that he might appear before the hour of closing on his station at Tellson's. Whether his meditations on mortality had touched his liver, or whether his general health had been previously at all amiss, or whether he desired to show a little attention to an eminent man, is not so much to the purpose as that he made a short call upon his medical adviser, a distinguished surgeon, on his way back. Young Jerry relieved his father with dutiful interest and reported no job in his absence. The bank closed, the ancient clerks came out, the usual watch was set, and Mr. Cruncher and his son went home to tea. "Now I tell you where it is," said Mr. Cruncher to his wife on entering. If as an honest tradesman, my wenches were wrong tonight, I shall make sure that you've been praying against me, and I shall work you for it just the same as if I'd seen you do it." The dejected Mrs. Cruncher shook her head. "Why, you're at it afore my face," said Mr. Cruncher with signs of angry apprehension. "I was saying nothing." "Well, then, don't meditate nothing. You might as well flop as meditate. You may as well go again me one way as another. Drop it altogether." "Yes, Jerry." "Yes, Jerry," repeated Mr. Cruncher, sitting down to tea. "Ah, it is yes, Jerry. That's about it. You may say yes, Jerry." Mr. Cruncher had no particular meaning in these sulky corroborations, but made use of them, as people not infrequently do, to express general ironical dissatisfaction. "You and your yes, Jerry," said Mr. Cruncher, taking a bite out of his bread and butter, and seeming to help it down with a large invisible oyster out of his saucer. "Ah, I think so, I believe you." "Are you going out tonight?" asked his decent wife when he took another bite. "Yes, I am." "May I go with you, father?" asked his son briskly. "No, you mayn't. I'm going, as your mother knows, a-fishing. That's where I'm going a-fishing." "Your fishing rod gets rather rusty, don't it, father?" "Never you mind. Shall I bring any fish home, father? Or shall you bring any fish home, father? If I don't, you'll have short commons tomorrow, returned that gentleman, shaking his head. That's questions enough for you. I ain't a going out till you've been long abed. He devoted himself during the remainder of the evening to keeping a most vigil watch on Mrs. Cruncher, and sullenly holding her in conversation, that she might be prevented from meditating any petitions to his disadvantage. With this view, he urged his son to hold her in conversation also, and led the unfortunate woman a hard life by dwelling on any causes of complaint he could bring against her, rather than he would leave her for a moment to her own reflections. The devoutest person could have rendered no greater homage to the efficiency of an honest prayer than he did to the distrust of his wife. It was as if a professed unbeliever in ghosts should be frightened by a ghost story. "And mind you," said Mr. Cruncher, "no games tomorrow. If I, as an honest tradesman, succeed in providing a jint of meat or two, if you're not touching it and sticking to bread, if I, as an honest tradesman, am able to provide a little beer, none of your declaring on water. When you go to Rome, do as Rome does. Rome will be an ugly customer to you if you don't. I'm your Rome, you know." Then he began grumbling again. "With your flying face and your own wittles, with your flying into the face of your own wittles and drink. I don't know how scarce you mayn't make the wittles and drink here by your flopping tricks and your unfeeling conduct. Look at your boy. He is urine, ain't he? He's as thin as a lathe. You call yourself a mother, and not know that a mother's first duty is to blow her boy out?